We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way. We're on a mission from God.
Welcome to After Dark with Jamie and Clint, a podcast where our hosts examine questions about the Christian faith. Questions that are not easy to ask and even harder to answer. No topic is off limits. Contents of this podcast may cause you to rethink long-held beliefs. Listener discretion is advised. And now, here's Jamie and Clint.
Oh, thank you, Delroy. Great job as always introducing us. Yes, this is After Dark with Jamie and Clint. I'm Clint. He's Jamie.
Still Jamie.
And we're coming to you from the Clammy Production Studios.
Clammy.
Go Clammy. And if you've been following us this week, you will know that we got a little bit of gotten a little bit of a tiff, shall we say, with Facebook.
You should know the name.
Anyway, yes, it was threatening for copyright infringement, which was it. We weren't, and but we had a disagreement, and they own the servers and the service, so they get to choose that they're right and we're wrong. So
He fixed it, so it's all good.
yeah. So we got some brand new outro music that I composed, and so I hope you like it, and go to our website and let me know if you don't. Let Delroy email Delroy and let Delroy know about it. If you like it. If you don't, we'll fix it and we'll do something else.
There you
go. So yeah, I like it. I think it. I think the new outro is better than what we had before. To be honest,
I like it. It's just very original. Very original.
Yeah.
Nice shades, by the way, man.
Yeah, I like yours too.
Thank you very much.
We had just got back from a photo shoot, and we did a Blues Brothers photo shoot. It's if you ever wondered why we say we're on a mission from God, it's from the Blues Brothers, and so we put our horn room shades on and our black suits, and we took some publicity photos, and we used
Shout out.
Yeah, Bethany Henderson Photography. Great photographer. In my opinion, the best in the upstate of South Carolina.
There you go.
But she does a fabulous job. She did great with us, and so that's why we still have her shades on. Yeah. But
they kind of have an appeal to them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little bit of an appeal. I don't know.
Well, I'm kind of in a bad mood because of Facebook, and so
I always like the Blues Brothers thing for you and me going way back.
Yeah.
But I used to say we're the Bruise Brothers.
Bruise Brothers,
because it kind of goes along with the podcast. Really, that verse that says, "What bruises from a friend are better than kisses from an enemy."
You may, yeah.
That's what this is. If you think about it, some of this stuff hurts. Some of this stuff can hit people the wrong way.
Yeah.
But it's done out of love.
Yeah.
We just want to open minds. So that's what we do.
Yeah. We're not trying to be mean to be mean. Yeah. We're not trying to be mean. I'm period. But yeah. And then we want to make one announcement to talk about the outro. Jamie and I would like to let you know, make an announcement that if you watch this video all the way to the end, watch all the way through to the outro, at the very end, we have a special message for you. And so go to the end. You will be rewarded if you go to the end. So we have a special message for you. Wait, go all the way to the end, and I'm not going to say anymore.
Well, this is going to be good. So don't miss this. Don't just be like, yeah, whatever. This is going to be good. This is legit. This is not some kind of scheme, right? So,
right. Yeah, man.
I encourage you.
Yeah. And so, well, let's,
you ready?
Yeah, let's get, this is going to be good. This,
so. It's one of my favorite things. So we did, the last episode of what Jesus being arrested and all of that stuff and all the different things that led up to it, facts.
Yeah.
Pointed out some things. Now we're going to talk about getting ready for Easter. We're going into the resurrection, and not just another passion play type thing, but proof. And by the way, we're talking not just biblical proof, historical proof.
Yeah.
So if you have friends out there that say there's just no way, like I see all the Bible stuff, you've heard people say that. I see all the verses in the scriptures and the gospels, but really outside of that, it's not possible for a man to come back alive who is dead. Now, before we go into this, I didn't talk to you about this earlier, but this will be fun, I think, for you and I. There's a ton of speculation, rumors, and ideas, right? Like, okay, he wasn't really dead. He was in some kind of deep coma.
Mm-hmm. The swoon theory.
Yeah. There was one that, what was it? It was somebody else buried, that his body was eaten by dogs. I've heard that. I've heard tons of crazy stuff. Imposter, like it was a stand-in kind of a thing, that was different. I don't know all the rumors. Do you know any others that are pretty famous out there that people use to explain away the reality of the resurrection?
Yeah, the biggest one was always, for me, I heard the most was always the swoon theory, that he'd fainted or whatever. The other theory was, bribery, that they bribed the Roman guards, and, it was actually, the disciples that bribed the Roman guards and told the Roman guards, tell everybody that the chief priests bribed you and not us. And then one of the other ones I heard was it was the wrong grave.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah, they put him in one grave, and then when they come, he's over here kind of thing, and they.
Well, the crazy things though is like you could sit there and go, looking at it from today's perspective, right? Somebody dies, comes back. So you can let your imagination run wild and come up with a lot of ways to explain that thing away. But 2,000 years later, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Churches all over the world, millions of people will celebrate. So I think this is going to be a really good one to get into, because you can explain it away, or we can take a look at the historical proof of why it is a legit thing. And it's up to the person to make their decision, right?
I just can't buy into, you have 2,000 years, millions of people, you're buying into a myth.
Yeah.
It's gonna eventually, it's gonna fall apart. It's gonna,
Think about like a Elvis, Michael Jackson. There are people that say these guys are alive, and I saw them at a gas station in Louisiana and all this kind of stuff.
Elvis is like 90 now.
Like there's no actual hard proof or evidence. And for the resurrection, we have evidence.
So evidence, yeah.
And so that's what we have to do, is just kind of look at the evidence and go from there. So I'm saying, man, it takes more faith to believe Elvis is still alive or Michael Jackson than it does to believe Jesus rose from the dead.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Let's jump in.
Before we do, one stop, Delroy, who is our sponsor? Talk to
Tonight's
our
episode is
sponsor.
brought to you by 3 Nuns Tobacco. There's none nicer.
Thank you, Delroy. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Did we ever explain what was so special about this?
I don't believe we did. We may have, but go ahead, explain it again.
So 3 nuns, right? Tobacco. We're both pipe aficionados, cigar aficionados. 3 Nuns was C.S. Lewis's favorite tobacco. And that was just his go-to. And I was telling Clint about that. Like, man, if I could find that. And he always knows a guy.
I know the guy.
Don't get on his bad side, because he knows a guy. But he found this stuff for me. I was like, man, this is phenomenal. So anyway, that's why it's special to our hearts. Because I don't know, I almost feel like Mr. Lewis is smiling down going, yeah, boys, that's good. I love that.
Yeah. Smiling down in approval.
With a pipe.
With a pipe.
All right. Or rope you found is up there.
All right. So let's dive into this a little bit. And so I wanted to start by actually talking about a Jewish burial.
Okay.
And I know I don't have it in my notes, so if you're looking for it, it's not there. But A Jewish burial, the way it normally would work is when someone passes away, they would they carve a tomb. Usually a family will have a tomb.
It's like a family plot.
Yeah, like a family plot. It would
Okay.
be a single tomb, and so they'll take the body, and they take all of these spices and these herbs, and there's a recipe. You got to cook it down. You got to render this spice down, and then you add these ingredients, and add water, and you heat it up, and you let it cool, and then you do this, and then there's a whole process to it, and it takes hours to do. But then they take this liquid, and they take the cloth, actually strips of cloth, and they soak it in this big like a big vat with this burial goo, and by the time it gets it's like a little bit runnier than glue, like a little bit runnier than that. But anyway, they take that, and then they'll wrap the body up in it, and what it does is it preserves the body, cuts the stench down, and it preserves the body, and it keeps actually the taste of it. It was very foul to like coyotes, wild dogs, and
Stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, because normally they wouldn't, they wouldn't put a stone in front of it. They did occasionally would put a stone in front of it, but most of the time for like poor people,
May not have one.
yeah, I mean, why are you going to protect the body other than for animals? Well, all the spices and all that will is a deterrent for the animals. So
And there was also the embalming process. Like what it was called today, we get embalming fluids and stuff
exactly,
like that.
and so they'd leave it in the tomb for 1 year, and then on the actual anniversary, the 1 year anniversary of their death, the family would go back, and they have this stone box, and it's I don't know, 12 to 18 inches long, 6 inches wide or whatever, and it's angled like this, and it's called an ossuary.
I've heard of that. I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this ossuary, they would take it, and they'd go back to the tomb, and by that time, all you have is bones. And so then they take the bones of the loved one and put it in the ossuary, and put the lid on it, and it's usually given to the firstborn, the eldest son.
Yeah.
Not really sure firstborn. The eldest son would it was usually given to them, and then they would take and bury it on their property.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the tomb, it's ready to be used again. And if it's big enough, you usually already have a couple of bodies in there.
Wow.
But anyway, so that's the very fast, but that's the Jewish process for burial.
So did you know that there's a tribe in Indonesia to this day that they mummify people, their bodies when they die? They mummify them. And every year they dig them up, and they have like a family reunion with them.
Oh my gosh, really?
It's looking wow. It's crazy. Well, they dig them up, they redress them with new clothes, and put flowers on them, hang out and take pictures with them.
It's like Weekend at Bernie's.
It really is. And I'm like, hey, that's wicked, man. But it's true.
Uncle Harold, I hadn't seen you in a year.
You know what I love about this?
What?
Like when we were doing the church podcast, which we'll get back to soon, hopefully, I'm Pastor Jack.
Yeah.
You're a doctor. But on here, we just we can have fun with this. That's what it's supposed to be, right? So yeah.
Weekend at Bernie's in Indonesia.
That's not like dig me up, take you to the beach. We'll put these on, fix my hair. I'm all about my hair.
To lay on the beach and let kids bury you.
Let them rebury. This is another TikTok outtake.
Oh God. Okay. All right. Let's get into this. All right. Let's get into this. This is all right. So anyway, that's the Jewish burial process. So it's a long deal. And So they didn't have that with Jesus. So what was happening is this was on the eve of Passover. Passover started at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And we know he was still alive at 3 p.m. So somewhere between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., Jesus died. Now it's it's more favorable, I guess I would say, that it was closer to 6 p.m. because they were so hurried.
Yeah.
So
And just with the people out there, right? It's about the sun going down.
yes,
Something on Passover, and so kind of just real quick, explain that for those of us that may not understand why that was important. Because the legs being broken.
yes,
It's a prophecy.
okay, yeah, or see now, what would happen for the Jewish days? A Jewish day started at night. I know it's weird, but a Jewish day started at night. So at 6 p.m. at sundown, at sundown would start the next day.
Mm.
And so now Passover being in roughly April time frame would put sunset at around 6 p.m. And that's why we gauge it. Let's say it's around, it may not be exact 6 p.m. It might have been 6:25 for all we know, but you get the idea. So but Passover would start at sunset. Now the problem is that according to Jewish law, you couldn't have anything to do with any dead body. Okay. Now here's a problem. Well, you offer a sacrifice at Passover. So how do you do that? Well, what they would do is they would actually sacrifice the animals the day before, the afternoon before Passover. Coincidentally, would be about the same time Jesus was hanging on the cross.
That's something.
And that's
Passover lamb.
yeah. There's a lot of things like that. Okay.
Too many instances.
Yes, to stay on topic. There's a really cool with the turning over the money changers in the temple and all that.
Yeah.
That was the day that the whole plan of having Jesus crucified.
Yeah, that's when they hatched it.
That's when the hatchet was after he threw. So you can actually say in a way that the lamb was chosen on that day. Well, that actually is the same day in which the lambs that were sacrificed for Passover were chosen. So it's all this.
Dude, look,
it's like,
I'm going to preach that, and I'll give him credit, but I'm preaching that.
oh, it's really good.
That's good stuff.
So anyway, you can have anything to do with a dead body. Now, Romans, they're not Jewish. They don't care. They don't care about your laws or anything like that. And what a Roman would do, what Romans would do is when they crucified somebody, that body stayed up there.
Yeah.
And it would stay up
kind
there.
of like a symbol, right?
Yes.
Symbol. They wanted people to see it and be like, I'm not doing what that guy did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Here, let this be a reminder. And so it wasn't like a quick, hey, kill them, get them down, But this was a unique situation though, because Passover is fast approaching. Now, if you remember from last week, Pilate was getting heat from Rome because Israel was becoming a really hotbed for insurrection. It was brewing, a rebellion was brewing. And so Pilate's getting heat from Rome, from Caesar, saying, hey, you got to keep the peace. So Pilate is going to do anything he can to appease them, within reason. So here's something we're going to do for reason, and within reason, we're going to appease you, is that, hey, we can't have dead bodies hanging up at Passover. And so these guys are still alive. Well, now, when you're crucified, and I say that like, we all been crucified at one point or another, but when a person is crucified, if they're hanging, they're going to slump down. If they slump down, they can't breathe.
Right.
And so what happens, they have to push themselves up.
Take a breath.
To take a breath. Now they can't hold themselves up because, well, they got a spike in their feet and it hurts, And not only that, but somebody like Jesus, who was whipped, where his spine was exposed, his backbone rather was exposed, and it's just raw hamburger meat at that point, and he's rubbing up and down on that pole. So every time it's just, anyway. So they, that's how they would take a breath. So what they would do, if they wanted to speed up the dying process, they would break their legs.
Yeah.
And then you break their legs and they can't push up, and then they suffocate. So in a very, very twisted way, in a very perverted way, it was how the Romans showed mercy.
Wow.
Yeah. It just, yeah. So
What a way to show mercy, right?
yeah, it just,
But it was death by suffocation. Yeah, that's the whole gist of it. Death by suffocation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
so the religious leaders went to Pilate and asked Pilate, said, "Hey, we got to stop this. We got to get these bodies. It's sundown is fast approaching kind of thing." And so Pilate gave the order to go break their legs. So when they went back over to Golgotha, they to break the legs, they noticed that Jesus was already dead. Now, they wanted to obviously prove that he's, number one, not fainted, and then not faking. They took a spear. One of the guards took a spear and stabbed it into his side, and blood and water came out. Now that's very significant because any coroner, medical examiner, that's what I'm trying to say, will tell you that, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I'm not going to pretend to know it, but they'll tell you that it was significant because that tells you that the body's dead.
He's dead.
He's dead. Yeah. And not only was it blood and water, but the order in which it came out was significant. It was a sign of death.
Yeah.
And I don't pretend to know
Why?
but yeah. But if you Google it, if you ask your family doctor, they'll tell you. But anyway, so they went to break Jesus's legs, and he was already dead. So they stabbed him, to prove, he's dead. And so then it was a guy by the name of Joseph of Arimathea. And if you ever curious what in the world's Arimathea, it's a little village about 8 kilometers north of Jerusalem. I think about 8.
Yeah.
North of Jerusalem. It's called Arimathea. It's still there to this day. But he was from that town. So that's why he was called Joseph of Arimathea, because he's of Arimathea. So anyway, this guy, Joseph of Arimathea, went to Pilate and asked Pilate, could he have the body? And Pilate was shocked. He was like, he's already dead? Joseph was there when they were, go to break the legs and saw that Jesus was already dead. So, that's when he ran back to Pilate and was about like, he already suffocated. They just broke his leg, and, that's what Pilate was thinking. So he was surprised Jesus already died. So he said, yeah, you can do whatever you want with it. And so they had to hurry. And so, they got Jesus down off the cross, and they carried him to Joseph's own tomb. And, I told you what the tomb's for. Basically, it's just to allow the body to decay, but he had his own tomb. So they took Jesus into that tomb. There's a misconception among a lot of Christians that think that the Roman soldiers rolled a stone in front of the tomb.
Yeah, I always thought that.
No, Joseph of Arimathea, and you can find this in Mark chapter 15, verse 46. It was Joseph who rolled the stone in front of the tomb. And Nicodemus was with him. So by association, we think Nicodemus helped him. He was certainly there.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the stone was pretty big, right?
Yes.
Really heavy. So is it possible that there would have been other guys there not mentioned that they said, hey, come help us with this? I mean, would it take more than a couple of guys is what I'm saying to roll something that big and heavy?
Yeah, it would have.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Okay. That's probably why we always think the Romans did it.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, the Romans weren't at the tomb
Right.
until the next day.
True.
And but why he put a stone in front of it, we don't know. I think it had more to do with the fact that they didn't do the proper burial, so he didn't have all the spices on his body.
Yeah.
So a dead body, wide open, you're gonna have wild dogs, and so to prevent that.
And you got to stop and think he was a very high profile figure at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, it's just like when somebody like a president or royalty or a famous person passes away, people will stand guard by that body. They keep a watch. So it has probably a lot of practical reasons why they did it.
Yeah. It really could have been. So I did want to, now the high priests and the religious leaders, the next day, which was still Passover.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got the day part of Passover, where you're not supposed to do any kind of work.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do anything. You couldn't even tie a knot.
Squish a bug.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, no, you couldn't switch a bug because that's a dead body. You can't. You couldn't spit on the dirt. Because you spit in the dirt, you plow the dirt.
I'm willing to bet a lot of people didn't say anything, but they broke the law.
Oh yeah, you're supposed to spit on a rock because you spit in the dirt and you plow in the dirt, and that's working and whatever. Anyway, but they went to Pilate the next day, and they're telling Pilate, well, first of all, they're groveling. You got to read. It's in Matthew. And you got to read how their interaction with Pilate was. All right, so the day before when they're going to crucify Jesus, Pilate has the inscription on his the King of the Jews, and they said no, don't put he was the King of the Jews, but he said he was the King of the Jews. Like they're telling Pilate this, and Pilate's like, what I've written.
Yeah, like I'm done with you guys.
We
done.
talked
about that before. I'm finished.
It's done.
Yeah.
So he had it. So you know that he had little tolerance for him. So now they come into him, and they're like, oh, great Pilate, that deceiver and his followers. They're groveling to it.
A bunch of punks and cowards.
Yes, absolutely. So they were groveling. May we please have some of your soldiers guard the tomb, And so anyway, he did. Now, we don't know the exact number. It was a minimum of 4. It had to be a minimum of 4 because that constituted a squad. And Roman squads, they operated, and basically all a squad done was watch.
Right.
They guarded things, and there's always 4 of them. And they would do 3 hour. They would do 2 3-hour watches.
2 3-hour watches. Okay.
Yeah. So what you would have is it covers 24 hours. So
or rotation. Some of the guys take a break.
Yes.
Whatever. Take
Right.
a nap. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and they weren't there to engage. Being a fighting force. They were more there toward, like something caught on fire or something. That's what they were watching for. So that was a squad. Now, it could be 4 or it could have been 16. Now, 16 is the minimum fighting unit, and I am not going to pretend to try to pronounce what it's called. But anyway, it's the Latin for fighting unit. But it's 16. And, when Peter got arrested, years down the road, he was guarded by 16 Romans.
Yeah.
Fighting unit. Now, because they anticipated there were going to be some pushback from, Christians, because Peter being arrested, he's very popular and all this, so they were planning for pushback, so they had 16. So you had 16 guys guard. If I'm expecting pushback from Peter, I'm definitely expecting pushback from Jesus.
I was going to say, follower lean toward the 16.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was 16. So what he done, and I don't want to dominate the talk here, but I feel like I am. And from love, never have a bruise from a friend. But so Pilate said, seal the tomb, and so what they would do, they would put. I'm not going to go into details of what the seal was. It's pretty cool. If you ask me how they did it, but anyway, that seal it could only be broken from permission from Caesar.
Yeah. It was the emperor's seal.
Yes,
right.
It was his
seal.
Yes,
and that's the big deal. I go to that in a moment. I want to tackle on that one, but that's one of the parts I think that we bypass so much.
Yeah,
and it's like
so.
You got to understand that how heavy this was. These little things.
Yeah, it was Caesar, as if Caesar himself said, and so you had to have Caesar's approval to break the seal. Now, Pilate was Caesar's representative, so he operated in the name of Caesar. So what Pilate said was as if Caesar said it. We talk about praying in the name of Jesus. This is exactly what we're talking about here.
Very similar, yeah.
Pilate operated it in the name of Caesar, and so Caesar sealed that tomb, the emperor, by way of his representative Pilate. So, they all that happened the day of Passover, while Passover was going on. It was when all that happened, So, I want to hit the pause button here and have you talk about the how the importance of that seal and what happens if that seal is broken without the authority of Caesar or his representative.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is one of my most favorite parts to point to in Scripture, because it's not just evidence in Scripture, but it's historical evidence too. They tie together. So it's almost like, we do know that the Bible records history. We get that. You okay?
No, bright light.
Well, there be light, man. That's why I got, that's crazy. But you think about it, the Bible does record history. That's what it does. So this is what we see, where it's like one culture that, like you said, don't give two spits about the Jews, their beliefs or anything else, right?
Right.
And we see the Gospels kind of collide with that, and it really supports it. So going to the seal thing, and especially with the fighting unit, like you said it best, can you imagine the uprising that would have happened if the disciples would have snuck in, stole his body, and said, "Hey, he resurrected"? So they wanted to prevent all sorts of things. I lean toward the fighting unit because Jesus had already caused a big uproar. I mean, you said it yourself. Hundreds of soldiers showed up just to arrest him.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know what are we going to deal with? How many people on the horizon?
Right.
So with that said, I lean toward the fighting unit, and there's a train of thought or school of thought that says they were probably the elite of the elite.
They were the palace guards.
Yep, the palace guards, because it's like, look, these are the elite units, SEAL Team 6, right? Nobody's going to mess with these guys. So we're going to do this big show of force, squelch this thing once and for all, and move on with our lives.
Yeah.
So you got the Emperor's Seal, SEAL Team 6. It's done.
Yeah. To back that up, logic tells you, because it was the palace guards.
Yeah.
It was Pilate. They're guarding Pilate. They're guarding Caesar's
man.
Yes. He's the embodied
service there.
Yeah. Well, I think SEAL Team 6 serves his butt.
Well, a lot of those guys have to be SEAL Team 6 before they can be Secret Service.
All right.
Anyway, I don't know. Hey, but check this out, though. If anybody, and there's so much here, if you or I went up and broke that seal, we're dead. You're done. There's no forgiveness. There's no court. There's no let me plead my case. You might as well went slap the emperor in his face. And it's not like today, where you can get by with so much. You're done. So for anybody to touch the seal, even if the guards wouldn't have been there. So there's your witness. But then you got to get past these guys. Then you have to get through them to do that. And let's just be honest, out of a bunch of fishermen, tax collectors, and guys like that, who's going to go fight the elite of the elite with weapons that like the best weapons of that time And these guys might have a couple of things, but not what it should. None of it makes logical sense.
No.
Like a bunch of farmers are going to go and attack, this special forces group. None of that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they're going to put their entire lives. And I've heard this too. This is the other side of it. If the Roman guard, those guys, and any of them really would have failed in their mission, they would be put to death.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if this part is true or not. There's a lot of fake history out there. But it could even be to the point that if they thought it was a bad enough deal, a bad enough crime or whatever, I guess if the emperor or Pilate or whoever got ticked off enough, not only could they put the guards to death, they could put their families to death. Just like leaving a body on a cross. Have you ever saw the movie Gladiator?
Yeah.
They had him, his wife and all that. I mean, these guys were in a brutal society. And that's what we got to stop and think about. It was a very brutal time, and they ruled by brutal force, right? And so, yes, they had to get along with people and appease them, but make no mistake, Romans would squash you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would level a place and get rid of you. So I'm looking at all the different dynamics taking place and going, none of it makes sense for the risk on both sides. I don't think these guys would have just allowed anybody to get close enough to touch that seal because that's their head.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person that touches it is theirs. I don't know, man. It just seems like to me, these guys just ran away. They just ran away and denied they knew him.
What did they run away from?
Well, I'm talking about the disciples.
Yeah.
They ran away. They were like, oh, no, we're scared to death.
Yeah. Are they scared to death of the religious leaders?
Well, they were scared of the Romans because that's who's going to do the heavy lifting, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me less than 24 hours roughly, or whatever, it was about 24 hours, right? We're somewhere in that time frame. Yeah. These guys are scared to death. They're cowards. They're running away. They're like, we're going to die. We don't want to be associated with Jesus. To, hey, let's go take SEAL Team 6 out and break the seal of the emperor. You make it make sense.
No, it doesn't.
So you take the Bible out of the equation. You say they just wanted to steal a body of a dead man who was not God, right? Not the Son of God, not the Messiah, none of that, just to propagate an agenda. And I'm going to put my life and my family's lives on the line. In fact, no, it just, that doesn't make sense to anybody. I wouldn't think.
No.
You're smoking some bad stuff if you think that's legit.
So, yeah, you painted a very vivid picture of, breaking that seal.
Mm.
And so,
So much at stake over that.
Yeah. And so when the seal was broken and the stone was rolled back, the Roman guards all fainted. These were battle-hardened warriors.
Yeah.
You don't get to the point of, palace protection. Being, Leroy the Doughboy.
A newbie.
Yeah, or a noob.
Why is the Army infantry, we call them pogues. No offense to pogues, we love you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Outer Banks. Outer Banks.
I don't know what it means on there.
Oh.
The army of pogue was people other than grunts.
Oh, no, it's,
I don't know.
Oh. yeah.
But I like Outer Banks. It's a great show.
I'm pretty sure.
I just started watching that the last season.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do that tonight. Just like, oh no, we'll watch it.
Yeah. Chip Epstein.
You said this earlier too, though, in the last one, when 300, 400, 500 guards show up in the Garden of Gethsemane,
They say, where's Jesus or whatever? He said, I am he. What happened to those guys?
They fell back.
Because he spoke.
Just the power, and I think that it was intention. That Christ did it intentionally.
Just so you know, I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
But this is who I am.
yeah. I'm. He's still the one that was sweating drops of blood just moments ago. And I just think that was just one last oomph.
Yes,
just,
for sure.
Yeah.
And then you see these guys
Power
that,
just fell down.
and you see these guys at the tomb that faint.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, didn't I see that?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have the resurrection, and like I said, you got these Roman guards that faint, and when they come to, I mean, what I find so funny is I think God has a sense of humor, and I think this was one of the things that angel rolled the stone away, and then sat on top of the stone. And I can just see the angel sitting on top of the stone, legs crossed, kicking his legs.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, we're okay, kind of thing, just kind of horsing around,
What's up?
and these SEAL Team 6 Romans just go out, but when they come to the tomb's empty, and so they freak out because what did you just say? You fail in your mission, you're dead.
You're dead.
Oh, so where do they go? They can't go to Pilate. Pilate had them killed. So they run to the high priests and the religious leaders, and they tell them what happened. And
This is good.
they say, here's some money. That ain't gonna be enough. Make yourself disappear. Here's some more money. No, that ain't enough living because they can't
Can't go back.
go back. All right, here's
I'm going to get my family if I have one rounded up or wherever they're at.
yeah. So they pay them off.
There's a great movie called, I may have said it before, it's historical fiction.
Mhm.
But right here, Easter season, I'll watch it. You need to check it out. And you guys check it out. It's called Risen.
Risen.
It's a few years old. And it's basically about one of the Roman guards who was there when Jesus died. When he saw him, then Pilate comes to him and says, you better find him because he's resurrected. And this guy's on a mission, and he is going to get to the bottom of this conspiracy.
Yeah.
And he busts up in a place like this upper room, and he comes face to face with Jesus. And he disappears because they're like, I'm going to get you. So it's a great one, but it kind of takes that, what you're talking about, and it just kind of puts the brevity and the reality of the situation in this one guy, and you kind of see it, and it's great to kind of get an idea of this is what it was probably like. But isn't it interesting that the religious people of that day, religious leaders, always seem to go back to money?
Mm-hmm.
Always trying to bribe somebody or pay somebody off.
Yeah. All
Something.
Yeah.
The love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, but the love of money.
you love money.
But I think about today how we see that in a lot of places, church settings, denominations, and movements. And money seems to, I don't know, it'll take it down.
Yeah, money is the motivating factor for a lot of churches,
Yeah.
and we personally see that.
Absolutely.
But getting back to this, they pay the guys off, the Roman guards. Now they can't be Roman guards anymore. They got to go. They got to go underground and disappear. And so they pay them off, and they tell them, spread the word and tell them that you all fell asleep, and when you woke up, the tomb was empty. So they stole the body. Like, okay.
Okay, so that's even better. Hey, we didn't get beat up by a bunch of peasants.
Yeah.
We fell asleep.
We felt like we're battle-hardened warriors who know that if we fail in any assignment, we're going to be killed. Oh, we're going to, you take the watch. I thought you were taking the watch. Oh, all 16 of you just fall asleep at the same time. Yeah, that's believable.
Crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's, then they went off,
I would have definitely come up with a better lie.
I would have too, I tell you. But that was so anyway. That pretty much sets up, as far as the resurrection goes. Now, there's the belief, the traditional belief that Jesus was crucified on Friday and he resurrected on Sunday.
Got it?
And that doesn't add up.
Okay.
It-
Now,
Scripture doesn't
disclaimer.
add up.
I'm looking at y'all. I ain't looking at him. He's going to get in trouble for this. This will fly in the face of all your Easter hats and baskets and
Bring it on.
dresses. But you're going to back it up with scripture.
Back it up with Scripture.
So open your mind, open your heart. And can I say this?
Yeah, you can say anything.
I'm going to say this, but don't take his word for it or mine.
Mhm.
Get your Bible. Pause, grab it, read it. And you never know. Or, shameless plug, grab the book. You got to put a link out there sooner or later where they get a book.
I need to.
Which we're going to switch over to something. thing going. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we think.
Got it.
That will, well, everything that I'm about to say has been researched extensively, is biblically backed up, and it's all written in here. So So here's the thing. I want to put the first thing that just gets, it gets me questioning the whole Friday, Sunday thing. All right. Jesus, the only sign that Jesus gave, they always, wanted proof that he was the Son of God. Raising somebody from the dead wasn't good enough. Turning water into wine wasn't good enough. Yeah. What sign?
Party trick.
Yeah. He only gave one sign.
What's that?
He said that the Son of Man would be in the center of the earth, would be buried, and after 3 days, he would be resurrected. And he was talking third party, but he was talking about himself. So that was the only sign he gave, that he would be that he's the Messiah.
Okay.
After 3 days, Friday afternoon, he dies Friday afternoon, and now the ladies get to the tomb at sunrise Sunday morning. And you remember what we talked about sunset and sunrise. And the ladies get to the tomb at sunrise. That was the earliest possible moment they could get there, because they don't have flashlights. I guess they could carry torches, but hey,
Medieval flashlights.
Yeah.
For those of you.
Yeah. So your Friday afternoon to pre-dawn Sunday, it's not 3 days. Now, some will argue and say, well, yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's 3 parts, or it's part of 3 days.
Well, I was sitting here thinking, because you said it was sundown, the start of a new day. It wasn't sundown on Friday, but that would have only been a small portion of the day.
Right.
So.
Yeah. You would say, okay, well, even taking that argument, so that would count as 1 day. Then you have sunset.
Okay.
You have
one sunset.
All right. So you have sunset to sunset Saturday. All right. That would be day 2.
Okay.
And then sunset.
Okay. I'm tracking now. I was thinking sunset to sunrise. No, when sunset to sunset.
Sunset.
So it'd been Saturday.
So it'd be sunset.
Yeah.
Right. So it would still, any way you slice it, it doesn't add up to being after 3 days. Now, if that ain't good enough, all right, well, there's some confusion, and here it is. Okay. Now, Mark chapter 16, verse 1. And I'm going to quote it, when the Sabbath was passed, in other words, after the Sabbath, when the Sabbath was passed,
over,
Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome bought spices so that they might go and anoint him. Okay. All right. So let me just, after the Sabbath, they bought spices. Remember I told you earlier, you bought these spices, and there's a recipe. You got to render this one down, add this to it, add some of this to it, add more water, do this, boil it, cool it, all this.
Yeah.
There's a whole process to it. So after the Sabbath, they bought spices. Okay. Now, if he died Friday, and then you got the Sabbath. Now the Sabbath would end sunset.
Right. Yeah.
You ain't buying spices at night. The markets aren't open at night on first century Jerusalem. When you buying those spices, it was after the Sabbath. But after the Sabbath, crack of dawn, you're at the tomb. Where did you buy them spices at? And did you stay up all night preparing them? Okay, well, Luke 23, verse 56. Listen to what he says. Then they, talking about the ladies, then they returned. Returned from where? From the tomb.
Right.
Then they returned and prepared spices and ointments. And on the Sabbath, they rested according to the commandment. So Luke, all right, so you have Mark. Mark says that after the Sabbath, they bought the spices. Luke says they bought the spices and then rested on the Sabbath. So Luke says they bought the spices before the Sabbath. Mark says they bought the spices after the Sabbath.
Okay, so let me stop you there and ask you. Let me intervene.
Okay.
Are we looking at one of those contradictions in Scripture? Contradicts itself, because that's what somebody's going to point out.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way.
So please explain, and for me and everybody out there, why this is not a contradiction.
The reason this is not a contradiction, listen closely, they were 2 Sabbaths that week. There was Passover, and then there was Saturday. Okay. Now, Sabbath means 7. Okay. That's why Saturday is called Sabbath, because it's the 7th day.
Right, right.
Now, according to the Jewish religious law, there are 7 high holy days, feast days.
And they count as Sabbaths?
They're called Sabbaths.
So this would be kind of similar to where we have a holiday that we celebrate, and we have, like, state employees have the day off. Or like if Christmas fell on a weekday, which it does often, but that's still considered a holy day. Okay.
So what you have on the Jewish calendar, you have 7 feast days or high holy days. Okay. And really quickly, they are Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Pentecost, Feast of the Trumpets, Yom Kippur, and Feast of the Tabernacles. 7. So those high holy days, those feast days, are called Sabbaths because there's 7 of them. Just like Saturday is the 7th day.
It's pretty cool.
So,
and I've never paid that any attention.
Yeah.
Never paid any.
So what you have then is you have Jesus that was crucified before Passover, Sabbath. And then after that, you had a normal day, which had to be Friday. And then you had the Sabbath, Saturday. So what you have with the ladies and how Mark and Luke add up is this. Jesus died Wednesday afternoon, somewhere between 3 and 6, most likely between 5 and 6, Wednesday afternoon. Now, Wednesday at sunset began Passover.
Right.
So then you have Passover from the rest of Wednesday night, all day Thursday. Now, Thursday, the ladies rested.
Yeah.
Okay. They observed Passover. Now I'm gonna point something out here in a minute, but they observed Passover. But this was also when the religious leaders went to Pilate and said, "Hey, we need to guard the tomb. You know, can we have some guards?" Yada yada yada. And that was Thursday. That was Passover.
Yeah.
Now Passover lasts until sundown Thursday. So then you have a normal day. So you have the rest of Thursday night, and Friday morning was a normal day. Now Friday is when the ladies went and bought the spices.
After
They rested
Passover.
after Passover.
When it was passed, so after Passover,
When the Sabbath has passed, after Passover,
yeah.
when Passover is Thursday, so on Friday, they bought the spices and prepared it. Now, it's a long process to do this.
Yeah.
You know, you got to cook all this stuff. Anyway, so that happened Friday. And then on the Sabbath, they rested. Now,
They had another Sabbath to rest.
but what does it say? According to the commandment. What commandment?
7th day.
Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy.
Yes. So that's the actual 7th day.
That's the actual 7th day. That's why it's different.
Sunday. Yeah. Okay.
That, it doesn't say that up in Mark. It just says the Sabbath. But in Luke, it says that they rested on the Sabbath according to the commandment. Now, the high holy days, I'm sorry, the high holy days, those Sabbaths weren't any commandment from God. That was religious law.
Mm.
But resting on Saturday was a commandment. So there's where the difference
That's
is.
the difference. And just to point this out, this is really good stuff because you bring so much to light, and I love the history aspect. And I've said this before. I will say it a lot for those of you that are listening. Maybe there's new people tuning in, but I want to be a broken record on this. This is why you look at this scripture, this book that was written to Jewish people, or at least people during that time period who understood Jewish customs, right? Because they shared a lot of stuff, trading and all that. They didn't point out a lot of little details like that.
Yeah.
Just because by simply saying according to the commandment. They knew. They knew exactly what you were talking about because they're in that time period. To us, if we read it at face value, that's why there's a lot of confusion. And I said that earlier about the contradiction thing because people said, well, look, that's a contradiction.
Right. Without looking into it.
Man, if you're a believer and you can't dig in and be able to break this stuff down, or at least have enough faith to say, I may not have the answer, but I know it's true, so let me dig in. This is why we do what we do, right? To give people more foundation in your faith, more things, to have in your arsenal when doubt comes. But that's why it's so important to read it through the lens it was meant to be read through.
Right.
Because if you read it through 2025 white dude in South Carolina's perspective, a lot of it just doesn't make sense. And then we draw our own conclusions. And when we draw our own conclusions, then we become religious, legalists, and bigots and all kind of weird stuff. So thank you for pointing that because I didn't know that.
Hmm.
And that makes perfect sense.
So there were two Sabbaths. There was Passover and then there was Saturday. And that gives you the 3 days because if Jesus died on Wednesday afternoon, then Saturday afternoon he was resurrected. Because remember, right at daybreak, the ladies were at the tomb and it was empty.
It's early, man.
Yeah, and no Roman guards. Now this was another thing too. The ladies were talking to themselves when they were going up to the tomb. They were asking themselves, "Who's going to roll the stone away?"
Yeah, like how are we going to do this?
Yeah,
They did think this thing through.
Yeah, they weren't around when the Roman guards were posted because it was Thursday and that's Passover and you don't walk around, old Passover. So, and then Friday they were busy getting all the spices to make the ointment, to anoint the body. So they didn't have time to go hang out at the tomb. So they didn't know anything about Roman guards. They were like, well, who's going to roll the stone away from us? And, when they get there, of course, there are no Roman guards because they'd left Saturday afternoon when the resurrection happened.
Wow.
So
that's a lot to take in. I have to tell you. There's a lot happening over the period of just a few days right there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we've all, well, I can say all, but if you've been in church any amount of time, we've seen the passion plays, kids doing stuff, and everything just seems, of course, for time's sake, it happens back to back to back. But that's not how this happened.
No.
There were lags of time and space in between.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think sometimes we just take that stuff too seriously. What's the word? We take it too, I don't know. We just look at it and say, okay, that's how it was.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. But that's not how it was.
Too literally.
Too literally. Yeah.
Well, it's, it's like watching, a crime show on TV, there's a crime that happened. And then, in the first 10 minutes of the show, then you got the police and they're investigating and, 20 minutes later, we think we got our guy. And
That's not how it goes.
And then 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes of the show, they're on trial. It's like, wow, it all happened in an hour. I think we, and that, we're conditioned to that. And I think that's what happens here.
Well, there's some kind of a movie I wanted to watch the other day. I heard about it. It's supposed to be this great, I don't know, maybe it's a true story. I don't know. 6 hours.
I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah, I don't even remember the name. I'm done with that. I ain't even going to entertain watching that. So that's why we got to have an hour-long show.
Yeah.
For Criminal Minds.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But the cool thing about this is that, man, I'm just sitting here thinking to myself,
about all this stuff happened so back to back to back. And the ladies, I just said they didn't think it through about the stone. But think about what just happened. There was a lot of really heavy, crazy stuff. Their whole world got flipped upside down within a matter of hours. So they didn't have a lot of time to think. They were just scrambling, doing the best they could, especially now we know with 2 Sabbaths, one day sandwiched in between. That's just a lot. That's mind blowing.
I mean, you're waking up Wednesday, and he was on the cross at 9 a.m. So you waking up Wednesday, and by the time you had breakfast, like what Jesus is what? There's this whirlwind going on.
Yeah.
And, and then, he's still alive. It's 5 o'clock. The sun's going down. We got to hurry, Passover, and you rush to do that. And, you just throw him in a borrowed tomb and, just roll a stone over so the dogs won't eat him. And, and we'll come back. Yeah. There's just a lot that was going on.
That's better. I kept looking and I was like, shoot, God.
You think?
What's up?
But,
Put that part. For you guys.
oh, that was like,
So there's just so much going on, packed into that,
mind blowing.
yeah. But Jesus, he left a message with the angel. He said, when they come, tell them, go tell the disciples, make sure you tell Peter, because they had made plans before the Passover meal that after Passover and after the Sabbath, that Saturday, they would meet and, on the lake shore, at a certain time or whenever. And, Jesus, make sure you remind them we made plans and I'm still going to meet them there.
And the interesting thing about that, sorry to jump into it, but the whole idea about the disciples, being the ones that overtook SEAL Team 6, they were hiding in homes. That's why I said go and tell the others, and you always read that they were hiding. They were like, we're next. So
Right.
that blows that theory out of the water. So there's one more little piece of evidence as to why it wasn't them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, they were in the upper room, the same room that they had the Last Supper in. They were up in the upper room, door was locked, and Jesus appeared to them. They had the door locked.
they were scared.
Yeah.
They knew it's a matter of time.
Then so there's no way they're taking out SEAL Team 6 or whatever. But I do find it very poignant, and I think God did this on purpose. And we've talked about this. We've alluded to it in the prior episodes. A woman's testimony wasn't credible.
Wasn't admissible in court.
No, you could murder somebody, and if the only people that saw you did it, right in front of you, they could have been standing right in front of you when you stabbed somebody to death. If there were women, nobody saw you do it.
Nobody.
Not admissible in court.
No.
Not. It's horrible.
And
But it's how it was.
And what did God say? God said, no. The first witnesses to the empty tomb, women.
That's why he said to the least of these. If you think about it, everything that he did was to the least of these. That's me and you and you. It's man. And if you don't see that in that moment, and I'll still see his love and his grace and his compassion.
And I don't get what I do. There's certain things that are taken out of context, and I won't get into that. But that for non-believers that say that that the Christian faith is it's male dominated. It's misogynic.
I don't know that word now.
I know it. I can't say it.
Male chauvinist or something?
Well, it's basically, yeah.
Basically saying we're sexist.
Yeah. Delroy, put that word right there. That word. I can't pronounce it, but that's what it is. Anyway,
Cryogenics?
Yeah. but I get it. But I don't get it at the same time. It's kind of, because, here is a perfect example of why Christian faith is not like that, because God purposely had the ladies
Yeah.
be his witnesses,
You skate around that if you want to, but if Jesus said, go tell, I don't know. I think it's okay. But anyway, that's another thing. But it's very interesting that he did that.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And we can't bypass it because, I don't know.
Yeah, there's some way of, avoiding that.
It's the biggest day in the Christian faith that the first women to preach the gospel and be evangelists. Or first people were women.
Yeah, the first, the eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's scratch that part out.
Like we don't, we can't admit that in court because it was just women that saw the empty tomb, God says,
Otherwise.
Yeah.
Can I say just something before you or turn it over to you, close out, whatever you want to do? We joke a lot. We play a lot. We have a good time. I love this. You've said before, this is like your therapy, right?
It is my therapy. It really is.
I love this thing. It started off as an idea. I don't even know how it just went.
Yeah.
And now here we are, and God is blessing it. So share this with people, like share it with your friends, your social media, put it out there. But I want to speak to the folks out there. Okay. And I want to say this to you guys. If there's some of you who are doubting that Jesus rose, we gave you all the evidence. Well, there's more, but that's the big evidence that we have, right? There's a lot more stuff. At the end of the day, I believe this. There's books on the evidence, thick books by smarter guys than us. There's tons of evidence. There's videos. There's all kind of archaeological things. But at the end of it all, it's up to you to choose to believe by faith that he is who he said he was and that he was crucified, dead, buried, resurrected, right? Whether you believe all this other stuff or not, and that's fine. But if you choose to turn your eyes from it, you will be responsible for what you turn away from. And that we don't want to see that happen. We are doing this because we want to strengthen Christians' faith and see people come to the faith, right? So if you're out there listening to us and, hey, it all sounds good, I can't argue with that point. Hey, I get you on that one. But what are you going to do with the evidence now that you have it? And it's going back to the women. All I was thinking was, what if they would have gotten back to the guys and the guys would have said that? You're women. What you say doesn't matter, has no weight. Get out of here. What would happen? Would we be reading a whole different story right now? Like, I don't know. But there's got to come a time to where you have a personal level of faith to say, I don't know what this looks like. I don't know what the next step is. I'm not asking you to take 25 steps. One, just believe. Just believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I love you. You're a smart guy. But the day that you gave your life to Christ, you didn't suddenly become theological know-it-all overnight. That takes time. I didn't mean to call you know-it-all. You know a lot of stuff. Genius. See, you know what I'm saying?
You like that backhanded compliment? Bruise number 2.
I'm sorry he's got a bruise on me back. But really, it takes time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I never set out to become a preacher. It was just, man, I'm a broken man in need of a savior. And whatever God has a plan for you. So just take a step of faith. That's what I would love for people to do. And if they do, let us know. Drop us a line. We want to celebrate that with you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just had to throw that in there because we are coming up on the most important day to our faith.
Yeah.
Because without this day, Jesus is born. That's awesome. That's phenomenal.
That's great. But
if he didn't rise from the dead, we have no faith. So anyway, I just had to put that in there and encourage you guys. Trust him. Trust him. And I hope this helps to maybe bring you that a little bit closer to that.
Yeah, I love it. That's good. That's good stuff.
Back in or more.
That's good stuff. Oh, that's all right. But hey, our Delroy designed this shirt. There you go. Did a good job, Delroy. And there's some stuff on the back at our website.
Was it? They can't say it, but let me read it.
Yeah.
It says, "Tell your mama I said hey. We're on a mission from God," and there's some other stuff.
Yes, the website and Delroy's email.
Delroy.
Yeah. Delroy designed the shirt. I think he did a really good job.
Hopefully we'll have some other stuff out, man, as we grow, you know?
Yep.
Cups. I love cups.
Yeah. You can be bribed.
I I'm a Pharisee at heart.
Pharisee. All right.
Give me a little bit of that. I'm like, all right.
All right. We good.
Yeah, we done.
Okay. So you got anything else?
No,
That's it, man. And dude, thank you for unpacking some stuff that I've never taken to heart, never tied those things together. Thank you for that. That was awesome.
man, really strengthened my faith a lot. Oh, man.
No, it's, I was about to say something, and I'm not going to say it because it'll make you laugh, but I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Trust me, I'll tell you.
Okay. 2 after dark for after dark on that.
Yeah, well, I'm cracking myself up just about it, but yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. I really do appreciate that. And I didn't want to.
Something that we actually should have said earlier, and I hate to do this. Ask my daughter. I get her back.
Something we should have said earlier too, real quick. We do have new listeners from a new country, couple of new countries. What do we have?
We got listeners from the United Kingdom. So, hey, United Kingdom, and we have listeners from Poland.
Sweet.
So,
Awesome. Thank you guys.
So,
A
yeah,
lot of people in Europe too.
yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
yeah. We got all of our international listeners, with the exception of one country, Australia, and then all the other countries are in Europe. Yeah.
Hey, well, let's keep it going, man.
Yeah,
I'm excited. That's great.
I mean, it blows my mind. It really does. It just, So enough of us talking. And remember to watch this all the way to the end. There's something special for you at the end. Anyway, good. All right.
Good.
You've been listening to After Dark with Jamie and Clint. I'm Clint. He's Jamie.
Still Jamie.
And we'll talk to you next time. Until then, tell your mama I said hey.
Listening to After Dark with Jamie and Clint. Visit our website at www.adwjc.com. This is Delroy. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Okay, you stuck around till after the outro. Good for you. Now, here's the special that we have for something special that we have for you. In the video, there's a word that that had shown up just out of the blue. Has nothing to do with what we were talking about. So if you find the word, you might have to watch our video again. Darn. If you find the word, go to our website, adwjc.com, and go to the contact page and put that word in as the subject, and put your contact information in the body of the email, and click submit it to, and it'll go to Delroy. And if you do that before, what do we say? We say April. What day did we say?
I don't remember, man. Trey's put me on the spot.
All right. So I'm gonna totally make this up. April 29th.
Oh, you're stretching it way out. I was gonna say 24 hours. 29th is better.
Straight. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're gonna do a drawing with amongst all the people or everybody.
No, you have until the 29th, April 29th, and the first 10 people will receive a special gift from Jamie and myself. And you'll be, we're going to leave it as a surprise. But you'll get a special gift if you're the first 10 people to contact us before April 29th. This ends April 29th. If there's not 10 people that contact us, then, well, whoever did contact us, they'll get. So we have something special, very special for you, that we will send you, just for watching all the way to the end of the video. And you have until April 29th to find it. So
sweet. That's awesome. That's a great thing, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
I am too. I really am. And so we can't wait to see you.
Can I say this? Free shipping.
Free shipping.
Like you don't have to do anything. Even if it's in Europe, I'll cover it. Doesn't matter. We'll get it to you. How about that? Is that
Free shipping.
Is that a great deal?
That's a great deal. You
got
get a free
no
gift.
reason not to be plugging this thing, man.
There you go.